Good afternoon. My name is Martin Grayson. I'm the author of The View from the First Chair. It's a book about how to be a litigator, how to think like a lawyer. Earlier in this series, we spoke about depositions in general. I'd like to talk now about one particular subset of depositions, and that is dealing with bullies in the deposition room. This is a problem that doesn't arise very often in court because you have the judge keeping control of the courtroom. But in the deposition, it is not infrequent that you find someone who stomps over all the rules, is discourteous to everyone in attendance, messes up the testimony as much as possible, and in general, behaves like an obstructive gorilla. We're going to tame that gorilla, and in a few minutes I'll tell you how. The first thing you need, however, is good perception. You have to be able to tell precisely from the beginning that you're dealing with someone who's going to be difficult. Usually that in itself is not difficult because you've had contact with this person. You've spoken to them on the phone, you've perhaps even met them in court at an opening status conference or similar proceeding. So you've got an idea that this is not the person who's going to become your best friend. Not necessarily because of anything you've done or said, but because of who that person is. Now you have that person in the deposition room and they're stomping all over the testimony right and left, not permitting the witness to answer, supplying answers, coaching the witness if it's his witness being deposed, his client being deposed, for example, and in general, obstructing the process at every move. Having realized that that is what you're going to be dealing with, you must, from the beginning, be absolutely as polite and courteous as possible. If you have a little evil streak in you, you might even rub it in a bit by saying to an objection, which is totally spurious, "That's a good point, counsel. Let me rephrase the question for you." And cooperatively going along, rephrasing questions, and an easy way to do that is to make your questioning shorter and shorter and shorter, more and more and more specific, so there can't be spurious objections to compound, overbroad, vague. Boom. Were you present at the offshore platform on January 16th, 2011? Yes. Were you working that day? Yes, I was. What was your position? Generally keeping things as brief and tight as possible to cut off the possible objections, which will still come, by the way, but at least you'll be creating a record that shows how careful you were trying to be in your examination. As the objections mount, and as your behavior becomes more and more polite, it's likely that this person is going to behave worse and worse and worse, which is exactly the trap you're setting and exactly what you want him to do. It could be a her. It's usually a he. Or shouldn't I say that? The more and more obstreperous and obstructive this individual becomes, the better your position is going to be. Because at some point, when you really think you have enough of a record set to show exactly what is going on, you're going to ask for a brief recess. You're going to take that individual outside, and you're going to explain, "I know you're trying to do your job for your client, and I respect your expertise in this area. I'm simply trying to get through the deposition and get the testimony we need to move this case forward. So I'm asking you to cooperate with me. Try not to object as much as you are. Try not to supply answers to the witness. Try basically to cooperate in the process, because I'll really appreciate that." On the other hand, if you continue to obstruct this deposition, refuse to let the witness answer, or coach the witness beyond what is seemly or acceptable, then I'm going to have to adjourn this deposition and take the record to the court and ask the judge to appoint a referee, which I will ask him to do at your expense, to complete this deposition under the, with the assistance of the court. You don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. So why don't we agree to get along here today, try to cooperate with each other, move this along as quickly as we can, and bring this deposition to a close. I promise you I'll ask the question as directly and carefully as I can. I need your cooperation with allowing the witness to answer. regardless of what the response is. And 9 times out of 10, it's, oh yeah, sure, okay, let's go ahead. You go back into the deposition room, continue with your deposition. If the objections and the horrendous behavior continue as before, you then stop the deposition and on the record repeat what you said outside. In fact, you might even mention, I discussed this with counsel outside, and what I proposed to him was, then repeat your litany about trying to cooperate, get through the deposition as professionally as possible. However, counsel has continued his obstreperous, obstructive, rude, and impolite behavior, and so I feel I have no alternative but to adjourn the deposition now, recess the deposition, and place this matter before the court. And I'm asking the court reporter to prepare the record to this point as quickly as possible so that we can get this accomplished and complete this deposition professionally, with the court as overseer. At that point, and I have done this maybe 5 or 6 times, each and every time opposing counsel has asked to go off the record, taken me outside the conference room, and pleaded, don't do that. Let's go forward with the deposition. I'll try to tone down my comments. Believe me, it's been a rough day or a rough week or a rough year, whatever the excuse is, but I'll try to be more cooperative. We've gone back in and completed the deposition. It has never been a problem because counsel realizes that he's been set up, that the record will reflect your polite behavior, your professional behavior, your careful questioning, and will also reflect his coaching witnesses refusing to cooperate, being rude, being obstructive, objecting without cause. You can take that argument to court every day of the week, and you will never lose.